Hi everyone, Savannah here, and in this Procreate tutorial, we're sketching a peaceful cactus scene during a gentle monsoon rain. I'll be using my free custom brush set, which is linked down below in the description, as well as the template and color palette that I used in this video if you want to follow along. Let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing we're going to do is change that background color, so click into layers, select the background layer, and scroll up in your color palettes until you find the cactus with raindrop color palette, and we're going to do this light blue color. Then we're going to add a new layer, so go to layers, click that plus, drag that layer below the outline layer that I have provided, and grab the circle blend brush. We're going to work on the sky first, and so we're going to grab a lighter blue color from that palette and start adding in some lightness to this background. And don't worry about making it look perfect. We will blend everything out here in a second. I'm just going to add some color in here, kind of varying the pressure sensitivity with this brush. It is pressure sensitive, so I'm trying to add in some more of that pigment of the color I have selected and kind of taper it off a little bit in certain areas. And so just feel free to add color where you want to on this background, and then we will blend in a second. And I'm just picking colors from these top two rows here, just adding in a little bit of variation. I'm having this section here, then I'm adding in the lightest part of the background and then kind of darkening up outside of that area. Again, just kind of making it look a little stormy, a little bit like a monsoon, kind of just passed through, and it's kind of the aftermath of all the rain that's fallen on this area. And I'm using the circle blend brush for this entire area because it is very easy to blend these colors in. I typically do that for the sky. It's a very easy brush to use for adding in clouds or sunsets or things like that. And so that's why I use the circle blend brush for a lot of my backgrounds. You could use the other regular circle brush if you want to, and then jump into the circle blend brush to blend things out. But I just felt it's easier to do the circle blend brush. And I'm picking up colors as I'm blending these out. I'm picking up those in-between colors. So to do that, you just hold your finger down on your iPad, select that color. It will show in the color picker in that top right area if you've selected it correctly, and just kind of using those colors to blend out even further between the two contrasting colors that I grabbed that from. It just helps make them blend a little bit more seamlessly, especially with the sky. I want it to be a little bit more blended. And so that's what I'm kind of doing in this area. And a lot of it is just working through this, blending these colors out. You'll see that I kind of go over a lot of colors. I'll add in a little bit more pigment if I feel like it's starting to kind of wash out a little bit, especially with like this bright yellow color that I have here. I want to make that really bright. And so I'll try to add in a little bit more brightness to make that really pop against the foreground that we'll be adding in. But essentially, you're just going to keep working on blending these colors out to get the sky that you want it to look like. You can add other colors in if you want. If you don't want to go quite as blue and purple with this background, you can do completely different colors. It's really up to you how you want this monsoon sky to look. And a lot of this, I'm just lightly pressing on this Apple pencil. That's what's going to blend these colors a little bit better. I'm not pressing too hard. You can if you want, especially if you have that middle in between color. It's not going to make it too stark of a difference. But when I have very stark colors, I'll do a very light press with my pencil so that it blends it a little bit better, a little bit more seamlessly. And then I'll just keep building up on that layer with the colors that are closer to it. And so as you can see here, I kind of am picking up a lot of those mid-tone blue colors to blend out these clouds or the sky a little bit more. You can do that as well. I'm just, again, using very light presses when I am blending this section out. Now, I was going to add the backdrop mountain here, but I realized that the sky did not come down far enough. So I'm going to bring that down a little bit more before I bring in that mountain here, and then we'll add in the mountain. And I'm just going to pull down a lot of that orange color that I added just to bring it down even more. Make sure you're on that circle blend brush if you're using that for this section. And then I'll also add a little bit more of the purpley blue to the bottom as well. Again, just extending this because I didn't want to bring the mountain up. I wanted to bring the sky more down. I want more of that sky in the image. And so I didn't want to bring that mountain up to take away from the sky. And so we'll bring it down a little bit. You can bring the mountain up if you want to, but I just kind of personal preference wanted to bring that sky down more. Now let's go ahead and add that new layer if you haven't already. We're going to grab this blue color and the circle brush, and we're going to fill in the mountain. Now I didn't do anything special with this mountain. I just kept it the one color. Sometimes I will add highlights and lowlights to it, but I just kept it monotone. There's going to be a lot more color in the foreground, and so I kept it pretty basic, brought that color down a little bit, and then we'll add the foreground after we do the cactus. So I'm just bringing that color down a little bit because I'm not sure where I want that foreground to kind of meet with that mountain. So just add that color in, and then we'll work on the cactus next. And I did want to add in a little bit more yellow to this area here on the background in the sky. And so I'm just going to brighten this up just a little bit more. I just want it to really pop against this cactus. And I'm just adding more yellow to the center here again to make this area pop. You can do this, you can move on, but I just felt like the yellow got blended out as we were working on the background. And so I'm adding more of it back in to make it really pronounced. Now let's go ahead and add a new layer. Grab that dark blue cyan color, and we're gonna grab the circle brush and start tracing, outlining this cactus, and then we'll fill it in. I am turning the opacity down on the outline layer just so I can see a little bit better where I need to fill in. And you can bring the brush size down a little bit as well. You don't need it to be as big. It will make it a little bit harder to trace the outside. But let's go ahead and trace it. We'll fill it in with the same color. And then, like I said, we will add highlights and some other color variations to make this cactus really pop. And don't worry too much about the base here. It will get covered with some of the plant life that we're going to be adding in. So just draw a horizontal line. We will fill in this cactus, and I don't drag and drop. So one of the things you can do in Procreate is grab that color from that top right and drag it into the area that you want to fill. I don't do that because the way that my brushes work, there's going to be gaps and you're going to have to go around the outline again anyway. So I just like to fill it in. It also kind of gives me more of like a traditional art feel when I do this instead of just dragging and dropping. So I like to fill it in this way. If you want to drag and drop, you definitely can, but just know you're going to have to go around the outline again if you use my brushes for this. And now that it is filled in, let's go ahead and alpha lock that layer. So just go to layers, click on the image of the layer that you want to alpha lock, and then select alpha lock. I'm going to start with this dark blue color, that circle blend brush. I'm just going to add some color variation to the surface here of this cactus. Because it is set to alpha lock, you do not need to worry about drawing outside of the lines. It will keep everything contained into the shape that we just drew. So that's why we use alpha lock a lot for this. So you can do it without alpha lock. It's just if you go outside the lines, it's just going to tweak your overall shape that you just created. So use alpha lock. It helps adding in the colors here, but we're going to add in some of this bluish purpley color, just lightening up in some of the areas. We'll add in some more lighter colors and some more darker colors. Again, just trying to bring this cactus to life a little bit more. And I'm going to jump right to this brighter color here, this very kind of turquoisey blue color. I'm going to add in that light color here. We'll blend through these colors here in a little bit, but I just want to kind of place that highlight so I know where that light is going to be hitting for this cactus that I'm creating. And I'm turning down the outline layer. You can turn the outline layer off, but I turn the opacity down on it because I have the general shape here. I still kind of want to see where I have the cactus arms coming out, but I don't want it to be so dark because it's hard to visually see where I'm adding in this color. So I just turned it down even more. Again, you can turn it off if you want to, but I'm just going in and adding in, like I mentioned, this lighter blue, kind of turquoisey color here where I want those highlights to be on this cactus. And then we will add in some more depth blended out so it's not so stark of a contrast here. And I'm going to grab that dark blue color and add in some more here to blend it out even more. And again, I'm just doing light presses here as I'm blending out. It will blend a little bit better if you do lighter presses, but if you want more of that pigment, just press a little bit harder on that Apple pencil, but you can kind of play around with that. And then I'm just going in, adding in some more color. I'm going to add some dark purple. I'm going to add some lighter purple here and just add some color variation. You don't have to go too crazy with it. Again, doing these light presses, it just adds a little bit of color without being too stark of a difference, but I'm just going to add in some of that color here. And I'm going to pull in more magenta into the cactus as well because I want to kind of pull in more of the background color that we have here. So I'm going to add some pink here and there. Again, still doing the light presses. I'll press a little bit harder in areas where I want it to be more pigmented, but I'm just doing light presses here just to add in the base coloring and then seeing where I want to add in more of that pink color. And I'm going to bring some of that pink color to the bottom as well, and a little bit more of this lighter blue. And I'm going to go over the pink with that light blue just to blend it out a little bit more so it's not so pink. It does look a little too stark against the blue, so I just want to pull in a little bit more blue here first. And I'm going to pull in some darker purple. I'm going to do it along the bottom of the cactus and where more of that deeper shadow is going to be, just to make it really pop. I want that contrast between the dark and this light blue color that we have on the cactus. So I'm just adding it mainly to the underside here of where the arms are, the bottom of the cactus, and then I'm going to add some lines to the cactus as well. So I brought that size down for this brush. I'm just kind of going along the shape of the arms and the cactus here and just drawing a couple lines to give it a little bit of distinction to make it look a little bit more like a cactus. And I'm just kind of sketching these lines, so just very rough dashes vertically up and down, following the shape of this cactus. So it doesn't have to be super clean. It can be if you want, but I'm just really doing rough lines, kind of like I'm sketching the lines here. And now we're going to do a new layer. We're going to work on the foreground here, the plant life in front of this cactus. And so I'm going to end up using that dark cyan blue color here. I'm going to use the circle blend brush because I just feel like it looks better when I'm creating these plants. And then I'm going to start adding in some shapes here and there. So I'm going to start just in front of the cactus here. Make sure you kind of bring that size of the brush up to a size that you want for the plants. I'm just going to add some plant life, just a couple areas here. I'm going to bring in that darker color towards the bottom, and we'll add some flowers, we'll add some coloring to make this really pop and bring it to life more. And I'm just doing really rough line sketches here. I turn the outline layer off just because I can add these in where I want them. It doesn't have to follow exactly what the outline layer is, but I'm just doing these kind of rough little sketches, and then I'm doing the ground here as well to blend them in a little bit. We'll pull in a lot of other colors here again to make the kind of flower field pop a little bit more. Now let's go ahead and pull in a mid-tone blue color, and we're just going to do the same thing again, just doing these lines across horizontally. We're going to just kind of blend it out a little bit more. We'll be building up more and more on this, so don't worry if it's not blended nicely. We will be adding a lot more color, a lot more depth, a lot more flowers and things like that to this as well. So don't feel like you need to blend it perfectly. I'm grabbing that dark purple color now and adding some shadows in this area as well. And again, we're just going to keep building up with different colors here. And feel free to pull in any colors. I'm going to pull in this lighter of the darker purples and just adding in some areas here and there. Think about where you want the flowers, what color flowers you want, and just kind of add these big colored areas. And then we'll add flowers and definition on top of it. Now, I did add the same kind of plants that I did in that darker blue color here in the purple. I ended up not liking it, so I kind of blended this out in a little bit, but you can do that. You can add different type of bushes, different types of shrubbery here. This is your foreground that you want to do, so feel free to interpret how you want. But again, I kind of went over this as I didn't like how it was looking, so I wanted to kind of change that. And this is where I kind of blended out those purple plants I added. Again, I didn't like them, so I just kind of went over it with this darker color here to blend it out a little bit. And then I'll go in with some other colors and add some flowers here in a second. Instead of those plants I created, I actually did almost like these squiggly lines. So I just added some spots here and there, and I'm going to go in and add some other colors of that same kind of squiggle line. So just go ahead and add in a bunch of these different colors here. We will add in flowers, but it just kind of helps make it look like maybe a little bit like a flower bed or wildflowers that are kind of growing in this area. And you can blend these colors out a little bit. I'm doing a little bit of that here, not too much because I still want the different tones to kind of pop against each other, but you can blend them out a little bit to make them look a little bit like they're all growing in together. And I am going to add some orange color here as well. I want a lot of variation here with the plant life with the flowers. And so I'm going to add some oranges, maybe a little bit of yellow, and then we can start adding in a little bit more defined flowers here. So it doesn't look just a bunch of random colors here. It will look a little bit more like a flower field. So add in some color. I'm going to add some magenta. I want it to be very colorful, very bright. So your eyes kind of drawn to it in the image. And now I'm going to add some color variation to the original plants that we added because they're looking just a little bland. We have all this color on the foreground, so I want to add a little bit of color variation here, a little bit of highlights. So I'm just going to go through and do that real quick, and then we'll add some more details to this foreground before we move on to kind of final steps. I did end up putting a few of these darker plants in the front here. I'm just using that circle blend brush, so it's kind of picking up a little bit of the flower colors that we added. I like the look of this a little bit better than when I added the purple flowers or the purple plants in the middle. So I'm just going to add a few things here and there just to build it up a little bit more, and then we'll add flowers to a lot of these plants that we're adding. And now we're going to add the flowers here. So grab that yellow, and we're just going to put flowers on a lot of these kind of plants that we just created. Feel free to go as much or as little as you want, but I'm just kind of going at the tip of the plants here and adding in the yellow flower. I'll add some oranges in, I'll add some pinks in, add some color variation as well. It's kind of hard to see a little bit on the if you have the flowers against the background there with the sky, but we'll add some color variation to make them pop a little bit more. So just add in, we'll start with the yellow. We'll add in some yellow flowers here and there. Then we'll add in some orange, some more pinks, other colors if you want to add. You can add those as well, but we're just going to kind of build up the flowers here a little bit. Now, like I said, we'll add in some orange. So I'm doing orange at the base of some of these yellow flowers, and then I'm also adding yellow, or excuse me, orange flowers as well. So you can add a little bit of the variation with the yellow by adding the orange as well. And again, we're just kind of adding these flowers here and there throughout just to build up the flower foreground. And then we can pull in some other colors. So I'm going to pull in this lighter magenta flowers, adding them here and there. We can add in some other, you can do darker purple if you want to do any colors you want. You can even add red if you want. But we're just going to keep building up the colors here for the flowers to make it look more like a flower field. I'm going to add some dark purple to the bottom of some of these purple flowers or these pink flowers just to give them more definition. And now I'm grabbing that lighter blue color again. I'm going to add some very small lines to some of these plants just to give it a little bit more definition, make it look like maybe the light is reflecting off of it and lighten them up a little bit. So I'm going to go through and do that on all of these plants that I created. And I'm going to do the same thing, but with this purple color, just again to add a little bit more definition, a little bit more of coloring to this image. And now we're going to add some rain to the sky here. So I'm going to grab this lighter blue color. I'm going to go even lighter. So go into the disc section of the color palette. And then we're going to use that circle blend brush, make the brush a little bit larger in size, and just start adding these lines here. You can have them going in any direction. Just think of where the wind is kind of coming. So I'm just kind of doing them from an angle. You could do them up and down if you wanted to. You can do them in any, direction that you want to. But I'm just going to add some of these lines here across the front here. I did do this on a new layer, so make sure you do that. And then what I'll do is add some color variation, just minimal color variation. And then we're going to do a motion blur on it to make it look a little bit more like it is active raining or actively raining here. And so that's what that motion blur is going to do. And now I'm going to alpha lock this layer so that I can add some color variation. I'm going to go white with that color variation, add some white here and there. Again, we're using that circle blend brush, so you don't have to press too hard to get some variation. And then I'll go in with a little bit of a darker color as well because I want to, especially over where this very light background is, you don't see a lot of that rain. So I want to go over that a little bit with this darker color so that rain stands out. And then make sure you uncheck the alpha lock so that when we go and do the motion blur, it will blur it. So that's what I'm doing here. You just go into the um, settings there, click into motion blur, and drag it across until you get the motion blur that you're looking for. And then I did add a new layer here. We're going to do raindrops on the surface of the cactus here. So again, kind of picking a lighter, almost white color here, using that circle blend brush. I'm just going to add some droplets here to the surface of this cactus. And then I'll add some definition to them. I'll erase a little bit of the center. That's what's going to make it look a little bit more like a raindrop. But we'll add some of that, add some highlights and some lowlights to it to make them look a little bit more like they are actual, 3D raindrops that are on the surface of this cactus. And so that's what we're going to do here. So right now I'm just picking this lighter color, but we'll go in and add some definition here in a second. And I'm just kind of following the shape and how they would fall on the cactus here. So a lot of those are kind of vertical in that middle section, but on the side they kind of curve down into where the arm is coming into. And then what we'll do is alpha lock this layer. Like I said, we'll erase a little bit of the center. So we're using that soft brush in the erase tool and just very lightly erasing the centers of these raindrops. And then with it still set to alpha lock, we'll add in some shadows and some highlights to make them really pop. And now grab a dark color. So I'm going to use that dark blue color and I'm going to add in just a little bit of the darkness to the left side and just kind of the underneath side. So it's giving it a little bit more definition here. I'm doing a little bit on the inside as well here. Again, just to try and make them look a little bit more like actual raindrops that are falling on the side of this cactus. And because we erased the center, it's not adding too much to the center of these raindrops because there's not anything colored there. So with it set to alpha lock, it's only going to color where there is actual color. And so that helps it make it look a little bit more defined here. So with that center erased, don't worry, that's not adding in darkness to that center because that's not supposed to be doing that when we erase it. Now we'll add in a little bit more of this lighter teal color. I'm just gonna add a little bit to the outside. I'm actually gonna pull in a little bit of the yellow as well here because I want it to be that reflection from the background against these raindrops. So the ones further to the right will have a little bit more yellow. The ones further to the left will have a little less just because the way the orientation here, that yellow is in the background. And so it's not going to be hitting a lot of these front raindrops. And with that, our final scene is complete. I hope this cozy little desert scene brought you some calm today. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments what desert themed sketch you'd like to see next. I'll see everyone in the next video.